Live tonight from the virtual Hell RX, the notorious road racing circuit in Norway, we say good evening, sim racing and rally fans, and welcome to the opening round of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. We're happy to have you along for the ride with us on the iRacing Sports Network as some of racing's finest from both the sim and the real world get set to go head-to-head for 6 weeks of iRacing Rallycross action, beginning with this evening's St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRX of Norway. You've got a front row seat to the action alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined in the booth by Jonathan Simone as well. We've got David Danboy, Cisco Scarabuza helping out behind the scenes. And Johnny, we're ready to rip from what is the newest rallycross track on the iRacing service.
And it's a circuit that contains copious amounts of elevation change, 1/3 gravel, roughly, and 2/3 asphalt as well. So it presents a challenge in all cases. And the unique part about this circuit, Evan, too, is that the Joker on the European rallycross side actually costs you time, whereas what we've seen on the iRacing service is us run North American circuits, and that's where the Joker actually gains you time as you cut the track.
And let's talk about some of those other tracks as we take a look at what the 6-week calendar is going to be, beginning here in Hell and finishing here as well on May the 15th. But, of course, we have this tricky track that's built into the terrain. It'll be very different when we head stateside. Starting next week, we'll go to Daytona International Speedway for the short course. You'll also see the elevation changes in Sonoma, back to an oval, though, at Lucas Oil Raceway, and then the Atlanta Motor Speedway long course before, as I mentioned, round 6 is right back here. So as the voice of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, and of course somebody who has seen some of these drivers compete in that and win championships over the years, what are your thoughts on how here tonight stacks up against what we'll see for the rest of this series?
Yeah, brilliant series calendar. We enter qualifying for the moment. The drivers will have 3 laps and 5 minutes to set that time, but we've put into the calendar, or at least iRacing have put in, I'm not going to claim for their good cause right there, but they put in Daytona Short and Lucas Oil, as you discussed, for round 2 and round 4. Now, those were the circuits used in the real Global Rallycross when it first existed. Now, the other fantasy tracks involved are Sonoma and Atlanta, and they were voted some of the best tracks on the iRacing service by our sim racers in the World Championship. So we've got an absolute all-star cast out there driving on the racetrack, an all-star cast in terms of calendar, and a little bit of an adjusted point system as well for today's event. There'll be no points handed in consolation races or this qualifying session, much similar to what we had in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship.
And, of course, that means that being one of those 10 drivers to get to the main event is going to be big because these drivers are funding for $10,000, which will be donated on their behalf to charity at the end of the season. But you mentioned we're in the qualifying session. Let's talk about tonight's format as we're going to whittle down, nearly 24 of the world's best drivers into 10 for that main event. And it'll start once qualifying sets the grid for 4 heat races. Those heat races will feature 6 cars each. The top 2 from each of those 4 going to the main, and then that would leave us with everybody else split into 2 LCQs where only the winners would move on.
And the only difference between this format and the World Championship is we have the extra heat today for heat number 4, and we have an extra lap to run through for each of the heats and our consolation races. So can't wait to see the extra action taking place. We've seen a few drivers now begin their first runs for the day. Now expect a low 37-second lap time here around Lankebanen, as some Norwegians helped me pronounce over the past few weeks. Hell Rallycross, as it's known, and what a circuit it is. It gives us such a fantastic sight into the European Rallycross universe.
It is really fun, and there are a lot of rally drivers involved in this event, the likes of Travis Pastrana, Scott Speed, and then the crossover drivers, the Alexander Rossi, James Hinchcliffe crowd from IndyCar, NHRA champion Ron Capps involved as well. But there are some drivers with more direct experience on the sim. Of course, our two defending, I guess I should say, from 18 and 19 iRacing Rallycross Series champions, as well as one Andreas Bakkerud, who became the first Norwegian to win this race here in Norway on the FIA World Rallycross Championship circuit back in 2016.
He clean swept this event back in 2016 in the real world. He had such a good race here. and pretty much finished first in every qualifying session, heat, and the feature. So brilliant for him, and could have won a championship potentially in 2020. He finished second last year in the championship, third the year prior, and unfortunately, until we get some more racing underway, we'll wait and see whether or not he can do that. But great to see, like you said, our virtual champions racing out there, Mitchell de Jong and Sami Trogan. And this goes to show how realistic virtual racing is. You've got your two sim racing world champions, both racing rallycross in the real world. Trogan in RX2 last year for 2019. Mitchell de Jong, a previous GRC lights and supercar driver.
They're just wrapping up the final few minutes in the qualifying session. To mention off at the top that today's race is the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund, iRX of Norway, and today's charity is that group. It's a charity that helps over-the-road and regional semi-truck drivers and their families when an illness or an injury occurs that has caused them to be out of work. So the SCF is also working to provide programs that will benefit professional drivers and the trucking industry. You can go to truckersfund.org/Yokohama. That's YOKOHAMA to donate. And if you do so, you'll as well get a $10 off discount with your next purchase with Yokohama and a rebate code as well. That could be up to $60 in value. So really great to not only get some of the best drivers on the planet onto a sim race, but I think on top of that, helping out a charity. Tonight, we're going to be doing that with different charities all throughout the season. But of course, that $10,000 prize going to charity at the end of the year makes it that much more fun as we're in the final seconds of qualifying.
And you mentioned the calendar earlier. It's provisional for the moment, depending on how long this COVID-19 situation goes on for, and we hope it ends as soon as possible so the world's in better nick. But the championship can be extended, so don't think this is just going to be 6 rounds. There's potential for it to be extended, but now it's time to look at our Heat 1 grid for the first time. I'm excited.
And the best time into qualifying, no doubt, goes to Mitchell de Jong. I guess we could have seen that one come into best as well earlier this week in some of the practice session. So he'll bring us to the green flag with the 37-125. He'll be joined on the front row by Christian Brooks at a 44. Travis Pastrana in the 3 car. Going to be the 3rd car in line. Way to the left on that front stretch there, it'll be Travis Pastrana, Connor Daly, and Chris Atkinson back on that back row. And we mentioned the interesting joker here. It is going to be that outside run down into 1 should anybody choose to take it.
Yeah, look out for that, of course, too. The Joker Delta here is 3.8 seconds in the real world. Now, in the sim, it could be slightly longer unless the track wears out come the feature race. And like we said, look for the outside drivers to take it. Look for your pole sitter on the inside of Mitchell de Jong. If he gets a good jump here, will also scream his way through into that Joker, but I doubt he'd want to give up track position. You'll lose a lot of time, but this is awesome to see racing at Hell. It's awesome. It's, you know, a place that's called Hell looks so much like heaven, Evan.
And we are getting set for the first round of this championship. Just waiting on Mitchell de Jong to get to the grid. Can he get out in front and go for the Joker lap early? Or being on the inside, is he going to hook it the first time through turn number 1? Again, it is a 6-lap heat race, the first of 4. The top 2 finishers going to be moving on to the feature race later on this evening. They're all on the grid, and they look up top towards the lights as Mitchell de Jong, the fastest car in qualifying, joined by 5 others. We're underway for heat race number 1. It's a mad dash to the first quarter. None of the top cars, though, going to go. Now I see Atkinson dive out from 5th to the Joker.
Oh, and he's mucked up the Joker completely, has Atkinson. He might even receive a slowdown penalty for that. If you're new to iRacing, if you cut the track, you will receive an automatic slowdown penalty, which Atkinson serves. But back to the lead, it's de Jong from Brooks. Behind him, it is Travis Pastrana from Pastrana. That's your top 4 with Connor Daly behind.
And seeing some people in the chat ask it, is that the Travis Pastrana? Is that the Connor Daly? Yes, it is. The best part of this iRX All-Star Invitational is these are the stars of the real world competing here on iRacing. And, of course, de Jong, I think, a star of both worlds. You mentioned the former Rally Lights Championship and a handful of iRacing accolades as well. He leads atop Brooks and Pastrana. Pastrana, second and third position. And again, this fight for second, I think, may be the one to watch with the 44 and the 3 not that far apart. Good back half of the racetrack for Brooks through the gravel, though. You mentioned this racetrack is a third gravel, so of course with those terrain differences, these drivers need to be a little bit more finesse and fine-tuned through it as that 44 car gets some space in second.
Pastrana's in good position here. He's taken that joker early. He's got clear track to lap away for Brooks and Pastrana. Pastrana's off to the joker, so let's see where he feeds out in relation to Pastrana. It's not even close, goodness me. So Travis has had some issues, and have a look at this as well with that looks like Connor Daly here. Connor Daly's yet to take the joker, but that's critical traffic for Travis Pastrana. I think he's taken the joker at the worst time.
The whole idea with the joker, and that's why a lot of these drivers are going to be taking it early or they're going to be taking it late, is of course the fact that they want to get away from everybody else. That's kind of the entire idea behind all of this, is to get some separation, and that's exactly what we see DeYoung have up at the front of the field as Mitchell is running away with this one early on, likely going to be saving that for the last lap.
Unstoppable is DeYoung, really, as he throws it into the middle sector. Throw it into this corner, let the gravel slow you down, and then use all the four-wheel drive as you slam the right foot on that throttle pedal to get the best run out of here. He absolutely nails the end of the lap. There's Mitchell DeYoung. And like I said to you, Evan, pretty much all week, he is the best driver on Rallycross in iRacing by far. And I don't mean any disrespect to the others out there, but I think he's proved it over the past couple of years.
Yeah, he has certainly taken home that championship in 2018 for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship. Runner-up finisher that same year in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the P2 last year in the VRS GT World Championship. So many different accolades for Mitchell DeYoung on the sim, but I think when you throw him in a rallycross car, I should say, that this is kind of where he feels like he's at home. This is his thing.
Yeah, good stuff from him, of course. So now we look at Connor Daly. He's taken the joker. We're still waiting for DeYoung to take it, and he does right now. This is one of the best joker laps in the world. You just send it and use a little bit of the handbrake here, or as you guys, what do you call it in the US, Evan? The e-brake?
Yeah, that was a conversation that, we saw over the week with Parker Clearman, who was asking James Hinchcliffe on In the Wall if they got to use the e-brake here or not. That's a NASCAR and an IndyCar guy trying to figure out these terms.
Yeah, I do know what the e-brake is, but I don't really use the term colloquially, and that's me trying to speak English, by the way. DeYoung's going to cross the line, and he will head through to turn number 1 for the final time. And I think for DeYoung, he has basically dominated this race, hasn't he? And he's going to head through straight to the feature, along with Christian Brooks.
Yeah, well done. Brooks was able to keep him honest. Again, that battle between Brooks and Pastrana for second and third ended up being the one to watch at a 5.4 second margin of victory. Brooks into the main event, so Pastrana misses out. He's going to be in the, of course, LCQ a little bit later on. Fourth position to Travis Pastrana. Connor Daly, fifth, Connor Daly actually in P6, led by Atkinson. All those drivers going to have to rely on that second attempt race a little bit later on. But on the grid now for heat race number 2, and it is another one of those familiar names in Sammy Matty Trogan, Johnny, who's going to be on pole.
Sammy Matty Trogan, our virtual champion from last year, racing RX2 in the real world. He'll be joined with Cabot Bigham here on the front row, as well with Alexander Rossi. Here we go for heat number 2. Oh, we've got a false start as well, and that's forced Rossi to false start.
Yeah, that's like 2 of them.
Blake Williams involved too.
He wins, and I think he scared Rossi. Both those drivers going to get a penalty as we race down it into the corner, and you can see Alexander Rossi going to go for the joker and contact up front. How about the move by Cabot Bigham, moving the one at Trogan out of the way, and it's going to give him an early race lead now, dropping the one car to second.
Bigham's been very impressive. Cabot the Big Ham Bigham, as he's branded. Follow the ham, of course, as he drives so splendidly in rallycross cars. He was a champion in lights, don't forget, back in 2016. And he heads through the final corner here to lead the first lap ahead of Trogan. Let's see if any of them head to the joker this time around.
Not biting. 2 leaders going to stay down on the bottom. We saw, of course, some of those drivers go on lap number 1. Ron Capps now second place, the former NHRA drag racing champion. He now going to kind of blend back out of traffic in front of his Napa teammate Alexander Rossi, and they're going to lead on each other. That's Napa on Napa there in a fight for, I think, 3rd and 4th, as they've now both completed their Joker pass-throughs. It gives those top 2 still battling for the lead now at the end of lap number 2, and Heat Race 2 kind of all on their own.
Well, don't forget, I think Rossi's got a penalty for sure. He has to. And yes, it wasn't his fault technically for the false start. He was distracted by Blake Williams, but for Rossi, he's in the worst position in this race. I don't think battling it out with Ron Capps is going to be any good. It's just for a bit of fun here, because it looks like Bigham and Trogan have wrapped up the top 2 spots. But the Joker Delta time, like we said here, Evan, is 3.8 seconds, and I think Sammy Matty Trogan could potentially have Bigham covered here.
He went for the Joker that time, so he's going to be good. The difference between those two, though, at the stripe was just 0.4 of a second. So you can easily make up or lose that amount of time in the Joker, and there he goes. He's going to drive it in hard. Goes a little bit wide on entry. Maybe not the smoothest he would have liked. Can Bigham stay in front? Yes, he does. Trogan gets back within those 2 car lengths, so they were nearly identical in their deltas.
How cool is that? It works just like it would in the real world, and it looks exactly the same, as Bigham will now lead this race potentially for the rest of the heat. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day, you know, Evan. I mean, you do lose grid position heading to the feature, and this isn't the easiest track to overtake at, but as long as you make it to the feature, that's the race that pays the most points.
And it is an interesting battle. We talk about some of the veterans competing in this, but you've got, the 17-year-old Finn and Trogan all over the back of Captain Bigham up at the front of the field in this battle for the lead that continues. Bigham, the 22-year-old American, a 2-time race winner across Rallycross at open wheel and just about everything in between. Going to be 1 lap to go this time by. This finishing order, though, will decide where they start for the feature. So if Trogan on Bigham here, are they going to really want to fight for this, or do they kind of walk away happy with the transfer spots as they see one to go?
2 smart Rallycross drivers. I think they know the answer to that one. No need to scrap away. Cabot Bigham, who lists his interests, Evan, as working out, eating healthy, and listening to Biggie Smalls, Tupac, the Gorillas. I feel like me and this guy should be best friends in the real world, but there you go.
Do you think he's got the tunes on in the car and he's just kind of vibing out up there up front?
Who knows? I would be. He's enjoying the race so far. These two, again, we can make a narrative out of nothing, which would just be fake news, but these two aren't going to scrap it out. They're going to head through to the feature, and right now, a brilliant event from those two. Great to see 2 of the top talents in Rallycross into our feature race final.
Nice and clean. It'll mean that Ron Capps in 3rd, going to have to go LCQ Racing. P3 is going to give him a good start, though, for one of those. Alexander Rossi, Garrett Smithley, a NASCAR entry, and Blake Williams in P6. Those drivers going to have to go to the LCQ. So 2 heat races down. The first one saw Mitchell DeYoung and Christian Brooks punch their ticket through, and now it is Cabot Bigham and Sammy Matty Trogan moving on. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we're going to go Heat 3 racing. You're watching the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama.
I am James Rogers, owner and CEO of Spartan Direct LLC, and I am proud to partner with St. Christopher's Truckers Fund. Many truck drivers today are faced with unexpected injury or illness and have to come off the road, and the fact is, if our wheels aren't turning, we aren't earning. There's not a lot of support for drivers in these situations, and that's why SCF is so very important and vital. SCF steps in and provides a short-term safety net for drivers out of work because of injury or illness, and they step in and pay necessity household expenses, including rent, mortgage, utility bills, vehicle payments, and insurance payments. Knowing SCF is here for my drivers and myself is a stress relief in very stressful times, and I would like to encourage you all to support SCF's mission by making a donation at truckersfund.org. Have a good day. Stand against all odds.
Yeah, awesome to see. This Heat Race 3 is going to contain Scott Speed, Andreas Bakkerud as well. Awesome to see him on the iRacing service. He's been so impressive come practice over the past couple of weeks. We're about ready to go here for another 6 laps of Heat 3, and we go green already. So look to the outside, Evan, here at the beginning. Who's going to take to the Joker? I think we see Bakkerud up the inside. He doesn't take it. Scott Speed's going to take turn 1 as well, but we see a couple of the drivers behind, including Kligerman, and they've made contact through the Joker.
Yeah, that was Brandon Semenek, who made a little bit of a later shallow move into the Joker. Well, Kligerman was trying to go wide. They got into each other, so that kind of destroys that entire strategy right off of the bat. So through all of that, it's Scott Speed leading, and Andreas Bakkerud right behind in second position. We talk about the cool mix of drivers here, and how about that for the 28-year-old Norwegian running in second position? He became the first Norwegian to win the Norway round of the FIA World Rallycross Championship here in 2016, and he's trying to replicate that success on the sim.
Yep, here we ride on board with him, and he clean swept this event back in 2016, and he basically won every single qualifier, every heat, even won the feature round. So for Andreas Bakkerud, who's yet to win a championship, hopefully 2020 was his year, and then ironically, we don't have a season so far, but he's driving well here. He knows his way around hell.
Oh, and a wreck behind the 23 Tyler Menninga's gone around. You want to talk about a unique mix of, different kinds of pro drivers. The driver of the Gravedigger monster truck involved in this competition. One of the unique drivers involved. He had moved up to third, and we'll take a second look at this one. I was actually just about to compliment him on how he's been able to move up into that spot, but he just caught the barrier on the right-hand side, slapped it back to the left. A 4-time Monster Jam Triple Threat Series champion involved in that one.
I've never seen someone smack the barrier to the right-hand side. I've seen people get a bit happy into the left-hand corner as we watch our leaders coming through now for the rest of this race. But the top 3 are still yet to Joker in this race. So we're watching Scott Speed along with Bakkerud and Chad Reed. And so this is the critical part, Evan. If you don't get it done on the first lap, it's all about the rest of the race. I think for the moment, it looks like Speed and Bakkerud should be through to the feature round. Only the top 2 advance.
And those drivers who have already taken a Joker fourth on the back are more than about that 3 or 4 second Joker delta that we discussed earlier on. So the advantage, obviously, for Kligerman and Semenek kind of wiped out when they took each other out in that very opening lap Joker. 2 laps to go for Scott Speed up at the front of the field. Looks like he's going to keep that one in the pocket for the last time around as he way opens up his advantage over Bakkerud in second position. 6 seconds off, and Chad Reed's going to go the long way around for the Joker, another one of the unique drivers competing, the 2-time Monster Energy Supercross champion.
Yeah, good stuff from Chad Reed. Always support the Aussies. Oh, and he gets clipped behind as well now, does Chad Reed. That was by Parker Kligerman. And I think Kligerman actually tried to wait there to readdress the position. It was a very clumsy incident between the two.
It's a tough break, and those are 2 drivers who are not used to driving rally cars. In Chad Reed's case, he's used to the dirt, but not, with 4 wheels and a cage around him. And, you see with Reed now, he's going to get back going here. Last lap into the works up at the front of the field, and Scott Speed obviously going a long way around. He gets the Joker out of the way, and it is going to be a handy one from the top of the board, start to finish. Final time at the back half of the racetrack for the driver of the 41 Subaru as he'll get set for the back half and try to close out heat race number 3.
Scott Speed's won more Rallycross championships than anyone could imagine. in North America. And he's going to come across the jump and across the finish line. He's winner for Heat 3. That's all that matters for the moment. He'll have decent grid position come the feature race, and Bakkerud will join him in the feature.
Those are the two drivers going to the main event. Parker Kligerman is able to get in third as they're just now coming across the finish line. Chad Reed going to hold on to fourth. Maybe not. Last lap pass. Beating and banging as Brandon Semenuk's going to go up and over as they fought to the end. Reed gets fourth. No, Semenuk gets it. Kligerman goes to P5 and Menon goes in P6. What a thrilling end to heat race number 3.
That was off camera, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try to show a replay of it, but we'll try and get that for you in the future. But that was absolutely hilarious coming across the finish line. But here we go for the final heat of the day here. We've got some good drivers in this one. James Hinchcliffe from IndyCar. Look out for Connor Martell on the inside. He's very quick as we're going to go green for another 6 laps of action.
And look at this. Those cars in the back row trying to make it 5 wide. Some contact on the outside as the Donnie Hinchcliffe tries to go through the middle. You can see swinging way to the Joker first time through Ryan Truex. But up at the front of the field, Martell trying to hold off Kevin Swindell, a late entry in the 39 VW. You want to talk about a unique entry? The 4-time Chili Bowl national winner right there on the bumper. Both these drivers just ahead of Trevor Pastrana, who's in the number 3 spot now.
Chili Bowl might be the greatest name for an event in human history as we ride on board with Swindell through the middle sector. But for Martell right now, he's in prime position to win this heat at the moment. He's got the lead. I would not opt for the Joker until the final lap. When you have some clear track ahead of you, Evan, best thing to do is just lap away and make up as much time as possible.
And we've seen that so far in this race where you're pretty much going first lap through to get kind of behind all of the chaos and try to avoid it. And oftentimes that hasn't worked. It is the Joker lap that has been catching some of these guys out. And if you're up at the front of the field, you just try to run your race with the clean track up in front of you and then opt to do it the last time through. But you can really see Martell now try to pull away as he starts to stretch things out at the very front of the field, down into third gear, down at the back half of the racetrack, over that kind of de facto jump across the finish straight. And again, he'll stay to the inside. Swindell still P2. So it is Ryan Truex, in fact, the lead car who's taken the Joker, did that on the first lap. And in P4, he may be within striking distance if Swindell continues to drop off a little bit. But Truex and Hinchcliffe fighting for 4th and 5th right now.
And they all run deep into the middle sector here. And Hinch just bullied his way past, didn't he? Ryan Truex. And he's going to make... Yeah, exactly. Now they're still running wide through the final couple of corners. That's Trevor Pastrana up ahead. And Hinchcliffe again just bullying his way past. It's all legal here in Rallycross. You got to get physical in this form of racing to make a move.
And all of this is presented in part by Court, the championship online racing teams. You can see Pastrana now goes a long way around through the Joker, so there is race control, keeping an eye. And in fact, Pastrana has been given a 5-second post-race penalty for an incident on track. They said in the drivers' meeting earlier this afternoon, Johnny, no, front-to-back contact. You can kind of lean on each other. We expect to see that in rally racing, but none of the shunts and punts and down into the corners. And to be fair, a lot of what we've been seeing is that side to side and door banging.
And just as you say that, James Hinchcliffe runs deep, coming back onto the tarmac for the middle sector. So he's going to fall down to the 4th position after making his way up through the field quite spectacularly. But as you said, correct, Evan, we've got race control watching to keep these drivers in check, because we know these real world racers driving in the virtual world, as much as they have a competitive spirit within them, they're always going to want to have a bit of fun and just force people off the racetrack, and that can ironically ruin the fun.
Final time around, though, for Connor Martell up at the front of the field. He's going to go down high-side and wide to the Joker. Kevin Swindell has dropped off significantly as of the last time by. He opted to take his Joker lap, so he tries to undercut with the 21 machine well and enough out in front, and it'll be a cruise to victory if he could hang on. Now back half of the racetrack, the right-hander through the gravel, slow speed, set it up, and head to the back straight.
Very impressed by Martell. He's been so quick, like I said, during the week in practice. And what a racetrack hell is as he rides through the final corner here. He's going to head straight through to the feature, as you said. So only the top 2 from this race get to do that. So Kevin Swindell will join him. And I have to say, impressive performance from Swindell.
Yeah, especially for such a late entry. He's in through the number 2 spot, so that'll leave Truex, Hinchcliffe, Parada, and Lofton, who we didn't talk much about in the 6 machine, to head into the host of LCQ. So that's a look at your finishing results for heat race number 4. 8 drivers now have already punched their ticket into the main show, and with only 2 spots left, now's where it gets serious, because we're on the grid for LCQ number 1. 6 laps still, but the transfer number goes down to just 1. You have to win this LCQ if you want to go main event racing. So to be McCoy, Reed, and Pastrana inside to out on the front row, with Semenuk, Atkinson, and Kligerman on row 2, Daly, Meninga, and Truex at the very back of the field as they look to the lights to get this one underway. Can the 3-car McCoy get it done from the front? Green flag flies. We're back underway. Looking now down to turn 1. Pastrana's going to get tagged. The 199 car way out of control.
And will he receive a slowdown penalty for that by the iRacing service as there's carnage ahead heading into the hairpin?
Yeah, somebody else got turned around and is jacked up at the inside. That's Connor Daly, the NTT IndyCar Series driver, who got tagged. Now another spin. Chad Reed, who started in second, he's off track. Tyler Meninga down into the wall as well. He and Connor Daly can't get away from each other. Bigger field, expected it to be chaotic, but I don't know about that chaotic. And through all of that, still the 3 up in front. Brandon Semenuk takes over second, but again, P2 is no longer good enough. Can he chase down a 1.5 second disadvantage?
So we're going to watch the replay here of what happened in those opening laps, but very chaotic as we expected. Now, I don't think Pastrana's lost too much time from that, but again, some odd stuff here at the start. But like you said here, or like I discussed earlier, Evan, is that the unique part about this circuit is that both Hell and Iowa on the iRacing service allow you to take the Joker on the opening lap, and that's what you saw a lot of drivers do.
And of course, it'll be different when we go to tracks like Daytona. The Daytona International Speedway short course going to be the round next time out next week, April the 17th. We'll go to Sonoma. We'll go to Lucas Oil Raceway, out to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the long course there. So all of those American racetracks. But we will return here to Hell on May 15th for the season finale. Again, all of these drivers fighting in this 6-week championship for a $10,000 donation on their behalf to a charity of their choice. And we just saw the 180 machine take the Joker lap that time through at lap number 3. So you're going to see the advantage for the 3 of Travis McCoy at the front of the field grow as he continues to keep it on track and on the straight and narrow, some 3 seconds up.
19 years old is Travis McCoy, very young. He's from California, of course. And he's still got some time in this race right now to take that Joker. So we're expecting him to fall behind the leader, Brandon Semenuk, which is critical because only your first place driver will head to that feature race final unless McCoy can make up another second here. Like we discussed, the Joker Delta time is 3.8 seconds at Hell RX. Will he take it this lap by? He doesn't. He heads through the double apex turn 1 and 2, and he's gonna have to take it next time by.
And you can see the 180 machine, the Semenuk behind, is going to go around and take his Joker lap. So for the 180 machine, he's now going to get stuck behind Parker Kligerman in traffic. So the 77 now takes over second position. Of course, you can see who still needs to take a Joker or not with that lap number at the very top of the screen. Underneath each driver's name will indicate if they have or not. But for Travis McCoy, the driver who just a couple of years ago traded the off-road racing for the Rallycross, he's scored multiple podiums since then, and he's on the final lap at LCQ number 1. There's his Joker.
Think it's good enough now for McCoy, and he should be heading to the feature. That was much easier than I thought it was. I was looking at the wrong times probably because he's in front by a country mile at the moment as he heads through the middle sector. Love this gravel portion through here. You want to throw the car in, let the four-wheel drive do all the work on the exit. Use your right foot to just floor it out of there. But for McCoy, the 19-year-old, he's through to the feature round for the first race of our All-Star Invitational.
Smooth and steady, top to bottom, Pecoy gets the job done. And you wanted to talk about drivers who had a challenge up for them. How about a round of applause, Parker Kligerman there, P2, so close to challenge it in. He comes up short. Semenuk finishes in third. Travis Pastrana unable to come back from that early incident, and you can see how he feels about that one after he went for the Joker off of the bat. He finishes fourth. Atkinson, Reed, Meninga, and Daly, they are all going home. That's the end of LCQ number 1. Only one more spot left now on the feature race grid as we get set for another 8-par LCQ number 2.
By the way, we need to see more of that. More drivers wrecking after the race. It's so entertaining as we begin the final consolation race of the day. The drivers are just about taking to the grid right now. We've got Ron Capps, Ryan Truex, and Alexander Rossi on the front row, followed by Hinchcliffe, Garrett Smithley, Justin Lofton, and then the final couple of drivers include Blake Williams and Trevor Pirana. So, again, an all-star cast of drivers. This will be the final consolation race, and then we head straight to the feature. Is that a false start for Ron Capps?
He had the top spot, too, but he went too early. The 54-year-old American, and I think that's going to take him out of this race now. He's made contact with Hinchcliffe, and somehow through all of the chaos, it looks like it's Truex out in front.
And it looked like Hinchcliffe was going to spear his way through turn number 1 and take out the rest of the pack. And now we have drivers stranded all over the racetrack. Trevor Pirana and the Subaru going nowhere. Ryan Truex, though, leads the race so far.
He's out in front and doing a good job. No. The older brother, as he gets into the fence there, though, is going to go out into the grass and check out behind him. Here's another NASCAR name, and Garrett Smithley. Both of these drivers have made starts in basically all of NASCAR's top 3 series. They've been in and around the ball, driving to part-time schedules. And who would have thought it would be the NASCAR guys? 1 and 2. Truex, the brother to NASCAR Cup Series champion Martin Truex Jr., not to get the two confused.
Yeah, definitely not. As we watch Smithley on board there, just trying to fight for the lead here with Truex. This is so entertaining right now to see these drivers pushing to the limit. Surely a few smiles on the faces. And again, through this race, only the first driver or the top driver will head through to the feature. So these Joker laps are going to be important. Truex and Smithley haven't taken to that Joker, and they're not going to take to it this time by.
I got to say, we talk about Ron Capps having that issue off of the lights, and we talk about the different drivers involved. Kevin Swindell, who we just complimented, was joking with Ron Capps over the driver radio and said, shouldn't the drag race guy be better on the lights? Ron Capps, of course, NHRA champion from a couple of years back, got caught out there, and he's recovered to P4, but I don't think that's going to be enough for the 28 car to get all the way back up front.
I don't think the clutch can overheat and slip here, but we'll use that excuse for Ron Capps, who, I'm not joking, Evan, once traveled at over, I think it was 526 kilometers an hour, which is his record, which the only thing quicker than that in the world at the moment are these runners running at me when I go for a walk at the park, and you don't know whether to go left or right because it's very awkward when you meet into him. But Ron Capps is an ever esteemed drag racer in the funny car, and he's a champion back in 2016, and hopefully more to come in the future, but he's enjoying himself in the dirt world here for now.
Yeah, and these drivers have been having some of those awkward to go left, to go right moments in the corners here as well, with how rough and tough some of these heat races at LCQs have been. It's 2 laps to go for Truex up front. He's opened things up to 1.9 seconds over Alexander Rossi now in second position after we saw Garrett Smithley go for the Joker lap the last time through. And we talk about how cool it is to see all these drivers involved, Johnny. Not only that, but of course to support a good cause. Round 1 here tonight is the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRacing Rallycross of Norway, supporting that charity, which is a truck delivery charity that helps over-the-road and regional semi-truck drivers and their families when an illness or injury occurring within the last year has caused them to be out of work. So the SCF is also working to provide programs that will benefit professional drivers and the trucking industry. We encourage you to join us and donate at truckersfund.org/Yokohama as we're on the last lap of LCQ2.
And Ryan Truex took to the Joker, and that handed the lead back to Alexander Rossi. So Rossi will head through to the feature. Our Andretti driver from IndyCar, and he heads through to the final corner here to make his way through to the feature. It's been a good race from him. Unfortunately for teammate James Hinchcliffe at IndyCar, he won't be going anywhere. He'll be going home, unfortunately, but it's been a good opening event for him. But brilliant stuff by Rossi to cross the line and win this final consolation race of the day.
And I guess he did the right thing, which was keep it clean, so we didn't talk about him, and he's able to sneak through and win. So Rossi, the 2016 Indianapolis 500 champions on through, sneaking around Truex there late, who comes in second. Smithley, Hinchcliffe 3-4, with Ron Capps, Justin Lofton, Trevor Parada, and Blake Williams top to bottom as a look at the finishing results from LCQ number 2. So it is a wide array of drivers who are going to be competing in that 10-lap main event due up next. And I think that this is kind of what we expected to see out of this one, as these drivers have about 2 minutes, Johnny, to get warmed up and kind of get after it. Let's talk more about what this championship will see. Again, $10,000 to the eventual champion of all of this. And it gets kicked off with what I think, having dabbled in some of the rally car stuff, not competitively on iRacing, but just for fun, is probably one of the more difficult tracks is on the calendar, and of course we throw these guys into it first.
Yeah, exactly. Hell RX, also known as Lankebanen. I might have just butchered the pronunciation. I've heard about 4 different pronunciations, Evan, from 4 different people. I didn't even
try to say it, so kudos to you for going for it. I haven't even given it a shot tonight.
I did speak to someone who was Norwegian, and they told me the correct way to pronounce it is Lankebanen, but they also told me that everyone just calls it Hell RX, and so just call it Hell RX for now. It's one of the most brilliant circuits in the world of iRacing, 1 kilometer in length. That's 0.6 miles, depending on your units of choice. And it contains copious amounts of elevation changes. And in the real world, has one of the best atmospheres for a crowd I've ever seen in the world of motorsports. It's absolutely insane as they park themselves up the top of the hill. But of course, you mentioned the charity too, Evan, and that will be $10,000 heading to one of the charities on the driver's behalf who was able to win this All-Star Invitational.
And the points, of course, heavily skewed to those who finish up at the front. We talked about some of the differences and similarities between this and the normal iRacing Rallycross World Championship. 40 points up for grabs to the winner, 30 to second, and then it'll go 25, 20, and 15 for third, fourth, and fifth position. It'll trail down, so last place in the main event gets 2. So obviously heavily weighted to do good in these, which means that a driver could get away with a suboptimal performance 1 week or 2 if they could pull together some wins. 6 weeks, I think, enough time to see some of that come into play.
Yeah, very similar point system to the World Championship. And so it's also one that will help these drivers. I mean, you really have to head to the feature to gain the most points, which is the critical part. But we'll have a look at today's grid. There'll be 10 drivers for this final feature race, 10 laps of action, 1 joker available to all of them.
And it is going to be a stacked front row with the 24 of Mitchell DeYoung bringing us to the green flag. Could be way to the inside, right-hand side, with Captain Bigham in the middle, and Scott Speed left-hand side of the front row in the 41 car. Connor Mertel, you've also got Christian Brooks and Semi-Matty Trogan, row 2, inside to out, along with Andreas Bakkerud, Kevin Swindell, and then our LCQ transfers in Travis Pastrana and Alexander Rossi. 10 cars on track ready to go for 10 laps, 1 joker in the main event of the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRX of Norway. They're on track, ready to go as we say, let's go racing at Motorsport Hell. Looking for the 24 car, green flag, let's go to turn 1.
Look to the outside here. All those drivers are going to head to the Joker. Pacoy, joined by, that looks like, ahead of him, is that Flip as well down the back of the pack.
It was a Napa car. I'm guessing it's Rossi, and it is. Bigham also got moved up and out of the way, Johnny, down into 1. I was up in the dirty stuff. Rossi ended up on his lid, and this has put Mitchell DeYoung in a very good position, leading now atop Andreas Bakkerud, who after starting in 7th has moved his way to 2nd. That's big gains for the driver who did not get a good result that he wanted in the heat race. Of course, coming home in a runner-up spot that put him 7th on the grid. This big jump's going to help him a lot.
And on that first lap, it was Scott Speed along with Sami-Matty Trogan, our 2019 virtual champion on Rallycross. Also races in RX2 last year, and now he's had some contact with Cabot Bigham.
So a tough call there. Both those drivers around after Bigham went for the Joker, came back down on Trogan. They slid into each other. They both went around, and you can't really get away with a mistake like that in a 10-lap dash main event. And this is why drivers, as we go on board with Connor Martell now on the bumper as he tries to chase down Andreas Bakkerud in this fight for second right now. Only 2 seconds off of race leader Mitchell DeYoung. He now goes to the bottom, and they're going to lean on each other. This is why drivers take that Joker early or late as they try to avoid this right here, Johnny, and that's traffic. It's great for us to watch. And he's going to turn him. Had enough of that, and he sends Bakkerud for a ride, but then looks like the 13 car going to regain it.
It's very tough to judge spatial awareness on the simulator, of course, compared to the real world. So that's why you see Martell just force Bakkerud off the racetrack. Not intentional at all, but I really hope we get to see Bakkerud take to the Joker, because he was the most entertaining throughout the practice sessions as he just sent it through there into the Joker lap, and there he goes once again. You saw him absolutely launch it, and now back out onto the racetrack in P4 behind Scott Speed.
So we can see where Scott Speed ends up kind of through that delta because, again, as you mentioned, he took the Joker on lap number 1. So he's already almost onto the back of Martell, who sits now in second position. And, of course, Mitchell DeYoung at the very top of the field, still yet to take that. Going to be 4 laps down of 10 this time through. Rossi's night is done. He never got that car back right side up, so he's going to make it to the feature, but he will collect a minimum points for that effort. Still a really good showing for the 7-time NTT IndyCar Series race winner, doing some of the rally stuff. A lot of these drivers have been kind of all over the place on iRacing these last few weeks, not just in the rally stuff, but, you know, bringing out the likes of DeYoung and Pecoy and Trogan when we get these cars onto the racetrack. Finally, as we take a look at Scott Speed in third, again, trying to make a move on the 21 machine of Martell, but that is not for position technically. 21 cars still needing to take his Joker. Just a little bit further back down the road for Pecoy, trying to fight with Andreas Bakkerud, 4th and 5th position. Those drivers in a spot where they would be dueling it out 4 spots on track. And again, we talked about how weighted it was to finish further up in the running order. But, you know, admittedly, if I'm Mitchell DeYoung, you got to need about 4 or 5 seconds to be safe. Right now, 4.7 atop Martell, who still needs to Joker. So we're looking at Scott Speed, 5.8 seconds back. DeYoung should be good, and if that wasn't good enough the last time by, let's see, DeYoung's lap a 37.271. It was a 37.688 for Scott Speed. So, I mean, Speed is good, probably second best car on track right now, but unless the 24 makes a mistake, he's looking pretty comfortable right now.
I think you're spot on there. Mitchell DeYoung is by far the best rallycross racer on iRacing, and the only reason, in my opinion, he didn't win that 2019 championship over Sami Trogan is because he had to miss 2 rounds. And when you miss 2 rounds, it essentially, obviously, you score 0 points, and that doesn't help your championship chances at all. So the fact that he was still in it in the final couple of races says it all. But no discredit to Trogan, who drove splendidly in his rookie season. But for Mitchell DeYoung here, he's running... Haven't seen him run the VW, Evan, since 2018, which is an interesting choice. So good for Mitchell DeYoung to make the switch. And it's interesting to see how he fares. He was one of the first entrepreneurs to head into the Subaru when it was new, and he proved that it really worked here on a worn track come the feature race. And
not just success in the rallycross as we pick up the battle between Martell and Speed, but as well finished second in the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, second last year in the VRS GT iRacing World Championship. So a noted sim racer as well as a 2-time X Games medalist in rallycross lights. So the driver of that 24 machine, the 22-year-old American, knows his way around a sim circuit and a real circuit as well, and he is putting it to him now as Scott Speed's trying his best to not get held up by Martell, just can't really get to the 21, who at this point now come to the white flag, is going to be saving the Joker for the last time by as DeYoung sees it, lap number 10 now in the works.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. The unique part about European Joker laps is that you actually lose time compared to our US North American Joker laps, where you actually cut the track and gain time on your opposition. So brilliant to see iRacing bring the European side of the service for Rallycross, and Mitchell de Jong is on his way towards a race victory here for round number 1 of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational.
It's clear racetrack in front of him. Final left-hander now back on to the asphalt. He'll get the job done. He won his heat race. He'll win the main. It is Mitchell de Jong, race winner of the opening round of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational, presented by Yokohama. Gets it done at Motorsport Hell for round number 1 at Norway. And just to show things off, he'll do a burnout lap all the way around the joint. Gets the job done. Total margin to victory, 4.3 seconds over Scott Speed, who comes home in second. A great way to kick off this six-week invitational with tonight's St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRX of Norway. We'll recap it all and take a look at those full results. Connor Martel also mentioned he's able to round out the podium in third position, and we'll do our very best to talk to those top 3 finishers. Martel, the 2018 America's Rallycross Championship ARX2 champion, just ahead of Andreas Bakkerud, a race winner here in the real world, comes home in 4th. Travis Pastrana finishing in 5th position. Kevin Swindell, Christian Brooks, and Cabot Bigham good enough to stay on the lead lap, and it was not a feature race to remember for the one of Sammy Matty Trogan, who drops to 9th, and of course Alexander Rossi, who did not see the end of lap 1.
You know what would be interesting, Evan, is running a feature race with 24 drivers, which I'm not sure is possible, but I'd love to see something like that, because I can tell you it would be absolutely chaotic.
It was chaotic with 10, and let's talk to the driver who came out on top of it all, driving the number 24 VW tonight. It is Mitchell de Jong, who's going to victory lane, and let's see if we've got him up on the radio. Mitchell, do you copy?
I got you guys.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations. First race winner of this Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. Just talk us through the night, obviously, able to get that heat race 1 win right out of the way nice and early and get in front of a lot of the chaos that happened in that main event.
Yeah, for sure. Qualifying's everything here. I started second in the test race yesterday and, got hit in turn 1 and pretty much had to fight from the back. So I knew that qualifying would be crucial. Fortunately, we got the pole. It was super close to Sammy Matty, as well as Scott too. I think it was third. It was kind of one of those like essential laps, and starting on pole for the first heat, had a clean one. Was able to start on pole for the feature because of being pole in qualifying, and pretty much that just kind of sets the tone. So very thankful that everything went as good as I could have asked for and stayed out of the trouble, and here we are.
We mentioned once or twice that 2018 iRacing Rallycross World Championship as well. But of course, this circuit, the Norwegian racetrack, the newest rallycross track onto the iRacing service, very, very different than how the American tracks race. So what are some of the unique features that make this place not only difficult, but I think fun as well? Looked like you were having a good time up front.
For sure. It's so cool to have a track like this on iRacing. We didn't have it in the World Championship this past year, but it's definitely cool to have it. It feels like a true, proper rallycross track. Hopefully we get some more sometime. But yeah, this is a really cool one. It's very hard to drive, actually. In the corner where you have that big sweeping, dirt section, if you kind of miss the curve a little bit, you can easily lose half a second. So it's very essential to hit the line just right, and if you can do that, then you really can make up some good time. So yeah.
Well, there's no better way to start this 6-week championship. We head to the short course at Daytona International Speedway next week for the second time out. But, of course, the whole premise of this Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational is that you guys are all racing to beat each other, but also to get the $10,000 donated to a charity of your choice on your behalf. Have you allowed yourself to think of who you're racing for yet, if this season can continue on this path?
Truly, I didn't actually know that it was of our choice. That's actually awesome. I'll have to think about it now. But yeah, I thought it was decided, but no, that's cool. I mean, the fact that we could, go and do this for such a good cause, it's, that's fantastic. And it's a good amount of money too, especially with the times right now. They're, really, really difficult. So it's cool that it was able to be organized like this. All the drivers here, we're here to have a good time, but we're also super competitive. So it's just, another layer on top of a cool thing.
Yeah, we'll see how lighthearted it stays as we get into rounds 2 and 3, and these guys start to build some rivalries across the different racing series. But Mitchell, congratulations on the feature race win this evening, and as well, thank you for allowing us to chat with you. Congrats, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks a ton. Thanks for having me.
Race winner at round 1 of this Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. It is the VRS VW on top of the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRX of Norway. Notable drivers second place in this one, Johnny. Scott Speed comes home second. You're on the radio with the driver of the 41 car.
Time to speak to a man who's won a plethora of championships in the Rallycross universe. Scott, we got you there.
Yeah, I think so. You guys read me?
Yeah, we got you. That's awesome to see you back in the virtual world, finishing second with great speed, and you're bringing that Subaru Motorsports USA car home in the second place. But I want to ask about your experience around Hell. Is this a circuit you've driven in the real world?
No, I haven't been out there, so it is actually kind of cool to go on such an iconic rallycross track and get to drive it. Because, even though this is a simulator and it's virtual, the cars do drive extremely similar as they do in real life. You're just missing the fear and a little bit of the feel. But it is cool to get a vibe and a feel for a track as cool as hell.
And talk about the Joker laps around here, because obviously it works a little different to North America, where you actually cut the track and gain some time. The European version would throw you off a little bit, and it's so unique at Hell because you can also take it on the first lap.
Yeah, for me, the Joker's a strategy. It's no different than any other corner, so whether it's longer or shorter, you still are playing the hand you dealt. Obviously, you're starting from the outside of row 1. It just seemed kind of like a no-brainer decision to have to send it into the Joker. Yeah, it's definitely a cool track, and I think it races pretty well as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Subaru Motorsports USA, unfortunately, you guys aren't out there racing in the real world in 2020, but hopefully you guys can get back out there as soon as possible, basically.
No, we got races. We have races with the Nitro Circus in Utah. That's like the most extreme version of rallycross, but it's obviously not like the FIA stuff that you guys are doing. We actually have gap jumps and cool stuff. So we'll be out there later this year.
Yeah, awesome. Anything else as well? Any sponsors to plug? I know you guys have brought in an all-star cast as well for the crew here in the All-Star Invitational, but we'll see you back out there at Daytona in more familiar territory, I hope.
Yeah, certainly at least back to a track that I've driven in real life. Maybe there's an advantage there. However, I don't think catching Mitchell DeYoung is in our future. He's got far too many hours on this thing for me to compete, but it's fun to sort of be the better one of the rest, if you will.
See, this is where you wish it was the real world, so you'd be back on top.
Yeah, I certainly would feel more comfortable in a real Subaru, that's for sure.
All right, we'll leave you to it, Scott. Hopefully see you next week, of course. And Evan, great to see Scott Speed back out there and still as speedy as ever. No pun intended.
Well, thanks, guys. For that one, nice and easy. And a big thanks as well to Mitchell and Scott for chatting with us post-race in this one as they came home 1-2 in the feature race for Motorsport Hell. Of course, a big thanks as well to all of the drivers competing in this one. Of course, with the lack of real-life racing, I know they've certainly been itching to get real-world racing, but everybody over here at iRacing, Johnny's been keeping them super busy with all these different events. We've seen Ron Capps at every kind of race car you could imagine, Connor Daly, James Hinchcliffe, and Alexander Rossi. Those guys all the same, but really fun to bring the rally and the road guys out there, mix them in with the iRacing pros, literally, and the pros from other disciplines, and put on a really good show that should be a ton of fun for the 5 weeks still to come.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be an insane few weeks coming up, of course. We head to Daytona next week, like you discussed, Evan, and iRacing have put on one of the best calendars you could put on for an All-Star Invitational. We head to Sonoma for round number 3, one of the most entertaining tracks on the iRacing service. And Evan, when we did a pre-race sort of survey with our World Championship drivers, they voted Sonoma as one of their favorite tracks, along with Atlanta's long layout. And Atlanta hosts round number 5. We also head to Lucas Oil for round 4, back to Hell for the final round, and we could potentially have further events added depending upon whether or not the COVID-19 virus situation improves, which we hope it does.
And certainly hope that, by all of us involved in these kind of events, putting these on, that we can keep you entertained, and hope that everybody is, staying home and staying safe and healthy through these times. But I did want to ask one more question before we step aside as the voice of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, and of course very familiar with these drivers. One more time about that schedule with Daytona, Sonoma, Lucas Oil in Atlanta, and back here as kind of our iRacing Rallycross expert. Your thoughts on the 5 weeks still to come, and kind of sell to everybody why we should see them for the next 5 Fridays.
You've got the world's best talent here racing in the virtual world, of course, mixing it in with some of our best virtual talent, along with Mitchell de Jong and Sammy Matty Trogan. And can I also add a quick segue? Credit to our sim racers for helping these guys get up to speed on the simulator as quick as possible. Yes, they're not racing in the real world, but they're so experienced on these simulators, they're able to give these drivers the tricks of the trade to be quick around a racetrack such as Hell 2, which is brand new to the service, and they've been hard at testing the likes of Josh Fox, Connor Parisi from Jim Beaver Esports, and so many more too. So credit to them too. But these next few tracks with our world's best talent is going to be on fire. And let's not forget too, Evan, we've got some other drivers coming in the next few weeks. We're hoping to see Tanner Faust show up here a couple of times. He's been on holiday at the moment, so he's unable to participate. But along with him, we've got some other new names up our sleeves that we hope will add to the grid and increase our audience just a little bit more.
Especially if you're a race fan of any kind, there is somebody in here for you, and hope that you enjoyed the coverage tonight and that you're with us the next time out. But until then, that's it for us here tonight from Norway. On behalf of our entire team behind the scenes, for Chris Leote, Cisco Scarabuzza, the court team for doing the admin stuff, and of course for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, and for Jonathan Saban, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Mitchell de Jong, race winner of the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund iRX of Norway. We'll be back with you next Friday. It is a 6:00 p.m. Eastern Time start for the virtual Daytona International Speedway. That race and every race of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night.